10 Stoic habits that will increase your focus by 200%. Stoic philosophy. There is a reason the great Stoic thinkers were able to run empires, command armies, and write timeless philosophy while enduring exile, illness, and political chaos. It was not luck, and it was not superior circumstances. It was the quality of their attention. Marcus Aurelius ruled Rome while barbarian armies pressed at the border, and still found the discipline to write some of the clearest philosophical reflections in history, alone by candlelight, undistracted by the noise surrounding him. Focus, to the Stoics, was not a talent reserved for the gifted few. It was a trained faculty, built through daily habit, the same way a blacksmith builds strength through daily labor at the forge. Today we examine 10 habits drawn from Stoic practice, habits capable of transforming a scattered, reactive mind into one capable of deep, sustained concentration. These are not abstract ideas. They are practical disciplines, tested across 2,000 years, still effective because human distraction has not fundamentally changed, only its sources have multiplied. If your attention feels fractured, pulled in a dozen directions before breakfast, these habits offer a path back to a mind that belongs to you again. Before we begin, if this kind of teaching helps you, subscribe to the channel now. We build this content to help you reclaim a mind capable of depth in a world engineered for distraction. And this channel grows because people like you decide to stay for what comes next. Let's begin. Habit 1. The morning reflection. The first habit that sharpens Stoic focus is the discipline of morning reflection, a practice Marcus Aurelius performed daily before the demands of the world could scatter his attention. Before checking messages, before consuming news, before allowing the outside world to set the agenda for his mind, he would sit quietly and remind himself of his principles, his priorities, and the nature of the day ahead. This simple act of claiming the first minutes of the day protects the mind from beginning in a reactive state, chasing whatever demands arrive first rather than moving with intention. Most people surrender their focus before they have even risen fully from bed, reaching for a device and absorbing dozens of unrelated stimuli within minutes of waking. This scattershot beginning sets the tone for a scattered day. The Stoic alternative is deliberate. 5 to 10 minutes of quiet reflection, considering what truly matters today, what obstacles might arise, and how you intend to meet them with reason rather than reaction. This is not about rigid scheduling, it is about mental ownership. A mind that begins the day already claimed by its own intentions is far harder to hijack than one that begins the day empty, waiting to be filled by whatever notification arrives first. Habit 2. Distinguishing what is yours to control. The second habit, and arguably the foundation of all Stoic focus, is the constant practice of separating what is within your control from what is not. Epictetus placed this distinction at the very center of his teaching, insisting that peace and concentration both depend entirely on where you direct your energy. A mind divided between controllable and uncontrollable concerns is a mind perpetually drained, spending enormous resources worrying about outcomes it cannot influence while neglecting the actions it actually could take. Applied to focus specifically, this habit becomes a filtering mechanism throughout the day. Before allowing a thought to consume your attention, ask a simple question: is this within my control? Another person's opinion of you, the outcome of an uncertain event, the past, these are not within your control and deserve no further mental rent. Your effort, your attention, your next action, these are within your control and deserve your full concentration. Practiced consistently, this single filter eliminates an enormous share of the mental noise that fragments attention throughout an ordinary day, leaving far more capacity available for the tasks that actually matter. Habit 3. Voluntary discomfort is mental training. The third habit involves deliberately choosing small discomforts, a practice the Stoics used to strengthen not only resilience but concentration itself. Seneca regularly practiced simplicity, eating plain food, sleeping on a hard surface, wearing modest clothing, not out of poverty but as a chosen exercise. This practice trains a crucial skill directly related to focus, the ability to remain present and functional even when conditions are less than ideal. A mind accustomed only to comfort becomes easily derailed by minor friction, unable to concentrate the moment something feels slightly inconvenient. Focus requires tolerance for discomfort, because deep concentration itself is uncomfortable. It demands sustained effort without the constant reward of novelty or stimulation. A person unaccustomed to any discomfort will abandon a difficult task the moment it stops feeling exciting, chasing the next stimulating distraction instead. By regularly practicing small voluntary hardships, a short fast, a cold shower, a demanding physical task, You train the same mental muscle required to sit with a difficult problem long after the initial enthusiasm fades. Discomfort tolerance and sustained focus are, in this way, close relatives, and strengthening one strengthens the other. Habit 4. The evening review. The fourth habit is the evening review, a practice Seneca described performing each night before sleep, examining the day's actions honestly and without excessive self-punishment. He would ask himself what he had done well, what he had done poorly, and what he might do differently. This nightly audit trains a form of attention that most people never develop. The ability to observe your own behavior with the same clarity you might observe someone else's, rather than remaining lost inside your own reactions all day without ever stepping back to assess them. This habit strengthens focus by closing mental loops that would otherwise remain open and draining attention across multiple days. An unresolved frustration from the afternoon, left unexamined, tends to resurface as background noise during unrelated tasks the following day. The evening review interrupts this pattern by processing the day deliberately before sleep, rather than allowing it to linger unresolved in the background of your mind. 10 minutes of honest reflection each night, free of self-punishment and focused on genuine improvement, clears mental space that would otherwise be quietly consumed by unprocessed experience, leaving a noticeably clearer mind the following morning. Habit 5. Single tasking is a discipline. The fifth habit is single tasking, a concept the Stoics would have recognized immediately even without modern vocabulary for it. Marcus Aurelius wrote often about doing each act as if it were the last act of your life, with full seriousness and attention, free of frivolous distraction. This is the philosophical ancestor of single tasking, full presence with one task, rather than fractured attention spread across several simultaneously. The modern habit of multitasking is, from a Stoic lens, a form of disrespect toward the present action, treating it as unworthy of complete attention. Research on attention confirms what the Stoics intuited without laboratories. The human mind does not truly multitask. It switches rapidly between tasks, incurring a cost with every switch. A mind constantly switching between a work task, a notification, and a passing thought never reaches the depth of concentration available to a mind committed fully to one thing. Building this habit requires deliberate practice, closing unnecessary tabs, silencing unnecessary notifications, and committing to one task for a defined period without interruption. Over time, this single discipline compounds dramatically, because depth of focus, much like physical strength, grows specifically through the deliberate avoidance of the very distractions that feel easiest in the moment. If this has been valuable so far, take a moment now to subscribe to the channel. We publish teachings like this every week, built to help you build a mind capable of real depth in a distracted world. Subscribing costs nothing and helps this reach more people who need it. Let's continue with the remaining habits. Habit 6. Amor fati, or acceptance of the present task. The sixth habit is the practice of amor fati, the love of fate, applied specifically to the task directly in front of you. Rather than resisting the current moment, wishing you were doing something else, or resenting an assignment as beneath you, the Stoic approach is full acceptance of the present task as exactly what deserves your attention right now. Resistance to the present moment is one of the most common and least noticed drains on focus, because a mind wrestling with, "I wish I were elsewhere," has already divided its attention before the actual work has even begun. This habit is not passive resignation. It is an active reframing that channels full energy into whatever is currently at hand, regardless of whether it is glamorous or tedious. A person who has trained this habit can bring genuine concentration to a mundane task, because they have stopped wasting energy resenting its mundanity. Practically, this means noticing the moment resistance arises. This is boring, I would rather be doing something else, and consciously redirecting that energy back into full engagement with the present task instead. Over time, this habit dissolves a significant source of mental fragmentation, because you are no longer simultaneously doing one thing while mentally arguing against doing it. Habit 7. Negative visualization. The seventh habit, premeditatio malorum, or negative visualization, involves briefly imagining the loss of what you currently have. Your health, your resources, your opportunities, not to induce anxiety, but to restore appreciation and urgency. The Stoics used this practice to counter the complacency that naturally develops around anything familiar, including the very capacity to focus and work meaningfully. When you imagine, briefly, what it would mean to lose your ability to concentrate, to think clearly, to pursue meaningful work, the present capacity to do exactly that becomes noticeably more valuable in your eyes. This habit sharpens focus by restoring a sense of urgency and gratitude that chronic familiarity tends to erode. Many people squander their capacity for deep work precisely because they assume it will always be available, treating hours of potential concentration as disposable rather than precious. A brief, occasional practice of imagining its absence, illness that removes your ability to work, circumstances that remove your available time, tends to snap the mind back into appreciating what is currently, actually available. This is not meant to be practiced obsessively or with real anxiety, but as a brief, occasional exercise, a few minutes at most, to recalibrate how seriously you treat your current capacity for attention. Habit 8. Reducing consumption to increase capacity. The 8th habit concerns the deliberate reduction of unnecessary input. The Stoics lived in a world without the modern flood of information, yet they still warned against unnecessary distraction, excessive socializing, and the scattering of attention across too many concerns. Seneca specifically cautioned against reading too many books superficially rather than a few books deeply, arguing that constant switching between sources prevents genuine understanding from ever forming. This ancient warning applies with even greater force to a world of endless feeds, notifications, and fragmented content competing for attention every waking hour. Building this habit means auditing your daily consumption honestly, how much unnecessary information passes through your attention each day, and what it costs you in available mental capacity. This does not require total withdrawal from modern life. It requires deliberate reduction. Fewer sources, consumed more deeply, fewer notifications, checked more intentionally, fewer simultaneous concerns, addressed more fully. Each piece of unnecessary consumption removed creates additional capacity for the concentration that actually produces meaningful work and genuine understanding. A mind constantly flooded with shallow input has little room remaining for the depth that focus requires, no matter how disciplined its other habits might be. Habit 9. Physical discipline is mental discipline. The 9th habit recognizes the tight relationship the Stoics understood between physical discipline and mental clarity. Marcus Aurelius, despite ruling an empire, maintained rigorous physical routines, understanding that a body left undisciplined tends to produce a mind left undisciplined as well. Physical exercise, adequate rest, and disciplined eating were not treated as separate from philosophical practice. They were considered essential foundations for the kind of clear, sustained thinking philosophy demanded. A body in chaos rarely produces a mind capable of calm, sustained focus. This habit is often the most neglected among people seeking better concentration, who search for mental techniques while ignoring the physical foundation beneath them. Poor sleep alone can dismantle a full day's capacity for focus regardless of how disciplined the mental habits attempting to compensate for it might be. Building this habit means treating physical care not as separate self-indulgence but as a direct component of mental performance. Consistent sleep, regular movement, and disciplined eating, approached with the same seriousness as any other Stoic practice. A well-regulated body creates the physiological conditions under which sustained attention becomes possible, while a neglected body undermines even the most disciplined mental habits built on top of it. Habit 10. Returning to the present, repeatedly. The 10th and final habit is perhaps the simplest and the most difficult. The repeated, deliberate return of attention to the present moment, every single time it wanders. The Stoics understood that the mind will wander constantly. This is not a failure but simply its nature. What separates a trained mind from an untrained one is not the absence of wandering but the speed and consistency with which it returns. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself repeatedly about confining attention to the task immediately at hand, not because his mind never wandered, but because he had built the habit of noticing and returning quickly when it did. This final habit ties together everything preceding it, because focus is never a permanent state achieved once and maintained effortlessly afterward. It is a continuous practice of noticing distraction and returning, noticing again and returning again, hundreds of times across a single day. Building this habit means dropping the unrealistic expectation of perfect, unbroken concentration and replacing it with the realistic goal of rapid, consistent return. Each time you notice your mind has wandered and gently bring it back to the present task, you are not failing at focus. You are actively practicing it, strengthening the exact mental muscle that, repeated enough times across enough days, produces the sustained, powerful concentration this entire teaching has been building toward. Closing. These 10 habits: morning reflection, distinguishing what is controllable, voluntary discomfort, evening review, single tasking, aim or fatty, negative visualization, reduced consumption, physical discipline, and the repeated return to the present, form a complete Stoic system for building focus that does not depend on motivation, mood, or ideal circumstances. They depend only on daily practice, repeated with patience, the same way the Stoics built every form of strength they were known for. If even one of these habits felt like exactly what your focus has been missing, subscribe to this channel now for more teachings built to help you build a sharper, calmer, more capable mind. We publish new lessons like this every week. Share this with someone who needs sharper focus in their life. Leave a comment with the habit you are starting today, and we will see you in the next one.